Well, thanks guys for doing this. I've been listening to the album and looking forward to when it's coming out. What, on Friday this week, right?
Should be February 11th. I think the original release date might have been a bit earlier.
Right. These things happen.
It's official.
Yep. That's why we have to make that the first question these days. So anyway, that's cool.
None of our, at least.
Where is your Kiwi accent? Why do you sound like a bona fide American?
I hang my head in shame. I am indeed an American who moved here in 1994.
Oh, lucky you.
It was actually. And I think one of the first gigs I saw when I moved here was you guys.
Oh my God. Yeah, we always love New Zealand.
Soundgarden or something?
At the power station and a Big Day Out, I think you were at, both of those things.
Oh yeah, Big Day Out, right?
Did we do a gig with Soundgarden, just us and them, or were they at our gig?
No, that was part of the Big Day Out, I believe.
Yeah, I think they were. It's because it was a huge bill. So yeah, that was probably a Big Day Out. But anyway, and of course the '90s are now cool again. Everybody's talking about them, so that's always a plus.
I was not aware of that. Is that really the case?
What's that?
The '90s are cool again?
They are.
Wow.
I didn't.
It's a cycle and it's come to its time. So yeah, everybody's obsessed with, especially mid -- stuff. So you guys are right in the middle of it, and you're showing up in the middle.
Thanks for sure. Black Sabbath is always cool.
Oh yeah, it's actually a Black Lives Matter T-shirt, but it's made by Black Sabbath's people, so it's pretty cool.
Right, that never changes.
That is a fact.
I was never that nostalgic about the '90s, but in retrospect, in comparison to what became of music, particularly rock music, the '90s, they're a little more special time than I recall.
Yep. I mean,
even average bands, Soundgarden, sound like Jesus now. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I just got through watching a film called Licorice Pizza, which takes place in like 1973, and the music and that's my era. That's the year I graduated from high school. So I was like, I mean, that whole, music and nostalgia and places and people and all that stuff is important to people. And those people from the '90s have come to an age, I think, where they're fondly looking back at things that may not necessarily have been that fond to begin with.
But I do agree. Licorice Pizza, I have seen it, and the detail that's the smallest detail of even the colors of the '70s
absolutely
are so brilliantly recreated that I can't believe how well done it is. I don't know how you do that, but that's filmmaking at its best.
Yeah, I mean, when there's a scene where he's on the phone, the phone's hanging on the wall, and he's dialing the phone, and I was like, that was the phone in my kitchen at home when I was growing up.
It was every detail was mind-blowingly evocative.
Yeah,
and it took me right back to my childhood. I mean, you graduated. I was a child during that time, and really was quite a stunning movie.
Yep, absolutely. So does nostalgia seep into this record at all? Does it affect anything? Do you think about those things, or are we completely off base here?
I really don't think we're really trying to recreate anything. I guess I think as a default, we are not chasing things that are new. Right. So in a way that, nostalgia may show up in our aesthetic through the back door, in that we are really not interested in being current. Let's face it.
Cool. So this is your first record in about a decade. Is there a story behind why you're making this record here and now, or why it's been so long? Was there something that spurred the process on?
I mean, I think we did have some material that that didn't make sense for the first record that took forever to come out.
Right.
that our second record that took even longer to come out was a result of kind of maybe taking the best of those ideas and saying, well, we don't have an entire record here, but with some inspiration, and we found ourselves a place to go, and we found a studio within which we could work in our manner without being too rushed. I think it has more to do with there was no hurry to put something out for expediency's sake,
right,
or for any commercial reason. It really, in hindsight, it really was a labor of love, and it was something that we were sort of like, well, if this never reaches the mark, it's not going to see the light of day.
right.
And that I think an unspoken rule between Nash and myself regarding all of our output was like, if this isn't, that's nothing to do with what we're expected to do or what needs to be done commercially. Where in that way, we've always been sort of an art band unconsciously.
Subconscious art. Yeah, I got you. Well, because you guys kind of split up, right at the height of all that stuff. So, where you could have been reaping the benefits of the hit record you had in the mid 90s.
Indeed, we chose not to reap.
Don't fear the reaper.
But I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, we didn't know that was really was the active what was happening at the time, but we knew that we would rather die than put out a subpar Urge Overkill record.
Cool. Well,
it was looking to happen, and we made sure it didn't.
Yeah, well, I've listened to the record. It's definitely an Urge Overkill record, and it's definitely not subpar. But I'm curious as to why you chose to open the record with a Wham cover. So that's pretty. Are you making a statement there?
I don't want your freedom. I don't want you play around. I don't want nobody, baby. Part-time love just brings me down. I don't want your freedom. Don't want your freedom. Don't need your freedom. I just want you.
I'm going to take the fifth on that one.
Nash, anything to add?
Well, I don't think we ever thought of it as a record opener or anything, but anytime you release an album, I mean, you want to gallop out of the gate. You don't want to come out limping, especially when a bull is your is your mascot. I mean, it comes charging out of the gate. So that was just revved up, and we just thought it had been a while since anyone heard from Urge, and we just thought it might remind everyone, where we come from and what school of rock we hail from. And but maybe what had bumped it up in the stack was the fact that George Michael met a very untimely death in his early 50s, and we felt called to that. Like, wow, I mean, the synchronicity was very bizarre, and it just made sense. Well, let's just open with Freedom, But I don't think we put that much thought into it. We just wanted to get the ball rolling on the first track,
All right.
Yeah, I think it made sense in that it maybe was the most. Of counting the songs that were going to be on the record, that whiff of Fuck You may have been a little more present with that in the pole position,
Right.
And we're always for that.
Gotcha.
As much as possible.
So, and the two of you guys have been working together on and off since about 1985 or so. So when you're making this record, how different is it for you guys working together now than it was, say, 30 years ago? or 40 years ago?
Well, I'd say time. You know, there was no time to be had or enjoyed or exploited back in the day. I mean, they'd hand you like, you know, a few $100s and say, you know, go make an album in a weekend.
Yep.
Here's the studio, and you know, and however it turns out, like, you know, good luck with it. And so, I mean, that's the biggest change. I mean, it's not like we just, you know, we didn't chip away at this for 10 years. You know, we do other things, but just not feeling under the gun to you know, no deadlines or anything. I think that, you know, that made a big difference. You know, we just chipped away at it when we could, and you know.
And what about the musical relationship between the two of you? Has that changed at all? How you interacted?
We still can't be in the same room.
Okay, well, that's good. There's a lot of bands like that these days, and they're just using.
We can only communicate through. Yeah, we can only communicate through Zoom now.
I don't know how this works, but we both have ultimate veto power, so it's equally like if you don't really need a reason to say this doesn't work besides I just don't like it.
Gotcha.
And it's back to the drawing board. You know.
No, we have always, thankfully,
something work for all you know, obvious logical purposes. Like, this is a great song, but if Nash doesn't like it, it's back to the drawing board. That's what makes it hurt.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, we've always been our best critics. I mean, the King and I, we've always corrected each other's work, and you know, like we with, you know, total disregard for what anyone else, what any third party may think of it. You know, it has to pass our muster.
I like that. The King and I. That's good. And the record was recorded at someplace called Rock House Studios, but in Minnesota. Is that right?
Yes, rural Minnesota, up in a little town called St. Joseph. They call it St. Joe.
Yep.
And with this amazing little studio that you would never know was there unless you knew it was there. Very unassuming. It was an old, like, turn of the century bank, which is ironic because our old band HQ was an old turn of the century bank. But you know, I mean, like, even the old vault, the old big steel vault, that was the ISO booth, you know, for vocals and things. But they had designed it they had modeled it after Abbey Road Studios. They were all Beatle freaks, like most of us.
Yep.
And so, you know, you have the control room on the second floor looking down on the huge live room. And it was just a great facility. And it was started and built by the late Bobby V.
Oh, great.
Who was a big
Tons of V. Yeah.
That's because he's from Minnesota. A bit of trivia, I believe Dylan played piano for him early on.
Right. I mean, they worked in obscurity for a while. I believe Brian Setzer found him. He's an East Coast guy, but he found himself living in exile in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But Nash and I both hail from that humble state, Minnesota.
Cool.
Many people may not know.
Yeah, I was unaware. So what was the vibe like in the studio when you got in there? How did you guys work together? Were there other people working with you?
I mean, it seemed to be we were a million miles away from everybody in sort of what we know as lake country, cabin country.
Right.
And it's where people go to, you know, get away from. If you're not far enough from everything in Minnesota, well, people there feel the need to go even farther into the lake country. And that's where Bobby V happened to hail from. And I had a good high school friend who got to know these guys who were sort of, you know, they had an excellent studio and were working in relative obscurity in a place called St. Joseph, Minnesota. And we were able to, you know, rent the place out for an entire winter. There was nothing much going on there. So we were able to take our sweet time in this, you know, great little place and really kick some ideas around and figure out what was worth keeping and what wasn't.
Cool. One song I wanted to touch on was A Prisoner's Dilemma. I think maybe it seems like there's a story behind that, or a story being told there. I hear Amanda Knox's name mentioned in it, and whatever. So, what's happening there? Can you tell me?
Cause a hot bright star really gets me high. Amanda Knox, I'll see you at a bar. Oh, Fat Bonita, on a night so tightly swaddled in Halloween shroud. The night she wrote to leave along the mirror until 3 was a crowd.
Well, I mean, the story is the Amanda Knox saga.
Right.
But A Prisoner's Dilemma is actually an ancient game. I'm told it was as old as chess or checkers or something, or Japanese checkers. Right. But it wasn't so much played with a board and pieces. It's a game of ethics.
Steve Martin made a movie about that subject.
Yeah. And, you know, but basically, a short version, it's, you know, you have two people are arrested for a crime, let's say robbing a bank. And then there's all these options that, you know, does prisoner A turn, rat out prisoner B? Does prisoner B rat out A? Or they both say silent, you know, but, you know, and if you do, you know, somebody do sentence. So it's really, a game of ethics. And at the time, the Amanda Knox saga was front and center on the news, and I just learned about the Prisoner's Dilemma, and I just couldn't believe how well it fit, that particular story fit into the format of the game. Hence the title of Prisoner's Dilemma.
Right.
And of course, unfortunately, the after I wrote it, she was sprung and returned to the States, and I think they wanted her back to retry her again, but obviously didn't go. But so it's like, well, does that render the song useless? I mean, I liked how it all fit in, and I couldn't exactly rework the lyrics like, "Hey, happy you're home. Heard you're in grad school and engaged," and maybe pregnant, that's awesome. It doesn't make for as interesting a sing.
Gotcha.
So I kind of shelved it, but it seemed to fit the what we were going for on the album. So revived it, and
we do have a tradition of the song as saga. We have a various. If you look back in our catalog, Hanho, the greatest story ever told, is a corollary to this.
Okay.
If you look back, you will find such nuggets in our past.
I'll have to rummage through my CD collection and see. Follow up on that. Another song I wanted to touch on is Totem Pole. About the 70s a little bit. That seems to have a 70s thing going on.
She took her time in the morning, but no goodbye before she rode. Hers was a house always open to me, right by the totem pole.
When I think totem pole, I see the David Lynch. His a lot of things that were set in the Pacific Northwest.
Right. Yep.
But we've also have totem pole as sort of a symbolic place of meeting that I guess could be a port of call, if you will. Nash, I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Please do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the totem pole is like symbolic of, we lived on the road for several decades, and there'd be, it was a simpler time, but there'd be I don't want to say a girl in every port, but there were certain girls in certain ports.
Gotcha.
And you just kind of knew where they were. But then one day you get to that town, and you don't always have a phone number, and they're just gone, or someone else lives in that house, and but you're probably in a sort of an altered state, and you're wandering around, looking for like a totem pole. Like I know she lived right over here. Like, so
All right.
it was just some symbolism, but yeah, but I think I got the inspiration actually, in the Pacific Northwest. But that is not to say that Minnesota is not without its share of totem poles.
All right, that's good to know. The album itself, I think it's being released on vinyl, and probably why it's being delayed a little bit. But tell me about the album cover. It's rather striking.
Yeah, I think we were trying to figure out how this this iconography came front and center. I think we were, in our, we came to know this portion of Spain, the Basque region,
Right.
who are obsessed with guitar rock.
Yes, it's a big power pop scene there, isn't there?
Yeah, and we were, we flew out there to play a few specific cities. We played in Lyon, and they have a mythology there that's very, I guess, bull-centric or whatever. They tend to think that they're one of the few places in the world that find the old, like the bull that's older and on the verge of death. They make these giant Flintstone steaks, and they think it's the tastiest meat.
Delicacy.
I think we were sort of taken by it was back and forth to Spain that just kind of, we don't really understand it, but we like it. And we'd been to Spain enough to say, they deserve some love in our iconography. And we found a Spanish artist who was working with this imagery, and it spoke to us. So it's as simple as that.
Very good, very good. So when the record does come out, are you doing gigs? Are you out touring? What's the plan? Do you have a plan?
Well, we'll definitely be playing in Lyon and eating some steaks very soon. But as the news comes in, I think we're very, we've been very excited about the positive response, and people tend to be really connecting with this record.
Yeah.
All over the world. I mean, it's happening in a way that perhaps we didn't expect or prepare for. So our plans were not predetermined and
Gotcha.
are being made as we speak, and I'm not going to say anything about Urge Overkill playing Times Square in 2025.
Okay.
I am not going to say anything about that.
All right, very good. Maybe you can play down in New Zealand here in 2022 or 23 once they open up the borders. Who knows?
We always
think of anything more.
We always had the best time in New Zealand. We always loved it.
Oh, good.
I mean, the fans, everybody, the people, making it happen. I mean, it was. We were there 3 or 4 times, and we always loved it.
Shockingly, they seem to know our songs.
There you go.
We were at gigs where lyrics were sung back to us, so that's very impressive.
But the downside of it, people don't understand, about touring. They think it's so glamorous, like, oh, you're off to all these crazy exotic locations and countries and things. But I mean, it is a gig, it's a job, and. Yep. We've been to, I believe, to New Zealand. We played there 3, possibly 4 times. And it's this amazing, huge country, you know, with rainforests and waterfalls and wildlife and everything. And all we ever saw of New Zealand was more or less Auckland, you know, which,
I know that
could have
feeling
been,
too.
you know, which could have been Columbus, Ohio, you know, I mean, and, you know, it just sucked. Like, you know, you sell someone, yeah, you played in New Zealand, like, oh my God, you know, I mean, and they're freaking out, like, isn't it gorgeous? Like, yeah, you know, we saw the hotel, we saw the club, maybe a bar, a restaurant in Columbus, Ohio.
I will say that we were in New Zealand. We were up all night. It was almost dawn. And we were partying with a guy who said, I will take you in my plane right now, and we can go in my private plane and circle this active volcano.
Oh, yes.
And it's maybe we decided at the last minute wasn't a great idea, but
Wise move. Yeah.
absolutely gonna happen.
Probably because the pilot was as fucked up as we were.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
So, you want to see a volcano? You know, come and get in my plane. I think we thought better of it, but that almost happened.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved here, there was a spate of helicopters dropping out of the sky over Auckland, like over the course of a couple of weeks. And I was like, I'm never getting in a helicopter in New Zealand. It's just out of control.
Yeah, it's no big deal. It's no big deal there.
No, it's not.
How the hell did you land there in '94?
I got a job offer. I work. My real job is a video editor, and I worked at Sky Television down here. And so I came in '93 to kind of scope it out and drive around, and got a job offer. And best thing I ever did was take that job. My family agreed.
So jealous. So jealous.
I think it's the first grass-fed hamburger I ever had.
Yep.
The best hamburger I ever had was in New Zealand. I don't know.
It's very different taste than the States burger. That's for sure.
Yeah, really, really good.
Well, as I'm sure you know, you're not missing anything back up here.
I know. I've been back a few times, and it's like I can't wait to get back to New Zealand. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, guys, thank you very much for taking all this time talking to me.
Perhaps we'll see you sooner than later.
Yeah, that would be very cool. And good luck with the record. I can't wait to see the vinyl, because it looks like it's got all sorts of cool multicolored things going on.
Yeah, I recommend the vinyl to anybody.
There's some psychedelic vinyl. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We'll put a thing up where people can order it. So we're all set to go.
Awesome.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good.
All right. Cheers.